Hi, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. We are Nhung
Nhung.
And Linh.
from Faculty of Teacher Education, and our scientific research is about English as a foreign language, pre-service teachers' attitudes towards the collaborative learning in virtual learning environment. And now take a look at our outline. Yes, let's move on to introduction. As you know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many schools have been forced to close to encourage the social distancing and deter the transmission of the virus. As a result, the term virtual learning environment has arisen to describe the web-based communications platforms, which allow students to access different learning tools and resources. Even before the pandemic, digital technology has been gradually modifying the patterns of our lives, especially education. Now, it's just gaining more attention, and our institution, Microsoft Teams, has facilitated educational activity.
Turning to language learning, due to the need for communication among non-native speakers, English is being taught in many countries. Being able to use that language efficiently means that language learners can manipulate their linguistic knowledge and produce grammatically and contextually accurate sentences. Therefore, collaborative learning, which involves groups of learners working together to solve a problem and reach the planned objective, is considered as an advantageous approach in language learning.
However, it's unclear whether or not collaborative learning is still beneficial to students in virtual learning environments. As a result, the researcher found it necessary to shed light on pre-service teachers' perception of collaborative learning in EFL virtual classes to ascertain the productivity of EFL collaborative learning activities and the difficulties that make collaborative learning less appealing, along with some strategies for an effective collaborative learning. The findings of the study may pose some implication for the current teacher training courses in the Teaching English as a Foreign Language program at the University of Foreign Language Studies, training for the pre-service teachers and the instructors about collaborative learning to eliminate the problems resulting from the lack of information about its essential characteristics may be considered. These are also the aims of these studies.
Turning to the objectives of the study, the research was conducted to firstly identify pre-service teachers' attitudes toward collaborative learning usage in virtual learning environment for English classes, and secondly, find out the main difficulties experienced by pre-service teachers while organizing and implementing collaborative learning in virtual learning environment. Last but not least, some coping strategies to overcome these challenges will also be presented. Based on the objectives, we put forward three main research questions. One, to what extent do EFL pre-service teachers perceive the use of collaborative learning in virtual learning environment? Two, what are the difficulties experienced by pre-service teachers while engaging in EFL collaborative learning activities in virtual learning environment? And three, what are some suggestions for effective collaborative learning in virtual learning environment?
In this study, cooperative learning is considered belong to collaborative learning, and both of them can be used in parallel with no major difference in meaning, as they serve the same objectives as mentioned.
Turning a more profound insight about collaborative learning, which is grounded in social conductivist learning theory or social constructivism, a term developed by a Russian psychology Lev Vygotsky, which emphasizes that learning and knowledge development is facilitated by interaction and collaboration. One of the main constructs of Vygotsky theory is the zone of the proximal development. The zone of proximal development is the distance between two development levels. One is when students solve problems independently, and the other is when they are under instructor's guidance or collaboration with others.
In conclusion, social constructivism emphasizes the need for collaborative learning. Learning is stimulated through collaboration among learners and between learners and instructors. Based on this theory, this research explores the University of Foreign Language Studies pre-service English teachers' perception of collaborative group work and how individuals learn in them. So turning to the benefits of collaborative learning in classrooms, by reviewing numerous previous studies, we were able to find out that collaborative learning yields positive results in students.
Apart from students' development, recent studies have shown that teachers could also derive substantial benefits when implementing collaborative learning. Numerous plus points of collaborative learning in more contexts other than EFL have been discovered, but few studies were able to find out whether or not collaborative learning provides similar benefit to EFL learning and teaching in virtual learning environment as it does in other contexts. Thus, this current research aims specifically to investigate if EFL collaborative learning in the online setting proves to be as beneficial as identified by previous researchers.
In order for collaborative learning to be successful, teachers are required to incorporate its five element components, namely positive interdependence, individual accountability, promotive interaction, appropriate use of social skills, and group processing.
Collaborative learning is considered organized only when groups evidently present these five basic elements.
More recently, technological advancement has enabled collaborative learning in virtual contexts. When comparing learners engaging in collaborative learning in a face-to-face and online environment, those in virtual learning had more chances to interact with the teacher, more time for preparation, and participate more in the class than those working face-to-face. They also indicate that it's essential for the teachers to make sure that students have received all the guidance needed for learning to be effective.
Besides, when conducting research on the use of virtual learning environment to build up the collaborative learning in formal education, Plus and Pauline noticed that participants were able to improve both technical and language skills. On top of that, teachers served as the facilitator during these collaborative sessions. Further, the importance of raising students' awareness of technology and how it supports the development of collaboration led the study to delve into pre-service teachers' attitude toward the collaborative learning in virtual learning environment.
Although literature reviews suggest that collaborative is advantageous, while experimenting collaborative learning in Asian classes in general and in Vietnam in particular, its desired outcome has not been achieved due to many reasons. First and foremost is because the learning methods of the student, they listen to teacher, take notes and prepare for the test according to what the teacher has taught. And in Vietnam EFL context, learners are not given sufficient exposure to the language outside of the class. So skills and benefits that they acquire from joining collaborative learning activities are rarely used and maintained.
So both quantitative and qualitative research approaches were employed as a research design. For the first research question, a quantitative approach is obtained by questionnaire surveys to gain data about pre-service teachers' perceptions and experiences with EFL collaborative learning, how and to what extent EFL collaborative learning is used, and its benefits or limitation in virtual learning environment. A semi-structured interview which consolidates the questionnaire is used to collect information for the second and the third research questions.
Conclusion. We put forward three research questions. The first one is to what extent do ESL pre-service teachers perceive collaborative learning in virtual learning environments? We have used quantitative research methods and collect data via questionnaires and we analyze data by Excel. We were able to find out that pre-service teachers seem to notice the pros and cons of collaborative learning in virtual learning environment, and they seem to have a positive attitude and willing to apply this method. Turning to the second research questions about the difficulties of collaborative learning in bridge virtual learning environment experienced by pre-service teachers, we use a different method, which is qualitative, and collect data through interview, and we analyze data by thematic analysis. The result is that time management, members' commitment, and tedious activities are three main challenges that pre-service teachers have to suffer while conducting collaborative learning activities in virtual learning environments. And they also pose some suggestions for effective collaborative learning in virtual classes. We were able to collect data by qualitative research method, also through interview and thematic analysis. And they say that strictly set the schedule and deadlines help them a lot. Also, using video calls instead of texting, and they emphasize the need for courses and workshops on useful activities for collaborative learning.
Okay, from the findings and discussions of the study, it is essential to draw attention to the following suggestions for a feasible and effective application of collaborative learning in the online study setting and other EFL contexts.
Further research should focus on investigating EFL collaborative learning application, not only at tertiary level, but also in secondary and primary schools in online context to identify the features of collaborative learning to promote communicative ability. Furthermore, guidelines to have students choose the best leadership style that suits their group should be investigated. There is a necessity to raise the awareness of collaborative learning and its importance to the Vietnamese teaching and learning of English. And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.